She was called Cinderella because she slept every single night in the ashes of a cold, dark fireplace that never offered her any warmth or comfort. But life was not always this way, for she once possessed a beautifully warm home, a loving mother, and a heart completely full of joy. Her mother called her close and softly whispered, "Be good, be kind, and be honest always, and I promise that I will always remain near to you." Then she closed her eyes. She was gone forever, leaving heartbroken Cinderella tightly holding her mother's cold hand long after the warmth of life had entirely left her. They laid her mother to rest beneath a young hazel tree, and Cinderella stood beside the lonely grave as the cold winter silence completely closed in all around her. Every single day, through rain and snow and golden summer heat, Cinderella returned to that grave and wept until the earth knew her tears by name. A year passed and her father remarried. His new wife brought a smooth smile, 2 proud daughters, and a coldness that would swallow the entire house. And from the very first day, the stepmother showed her true nature. She took Cinderella's room, her dresses, and sent her down to sleep among the ashes. Every morning before sunrise, she carried water, lit fires, scrubbed floors, and cooked every meal, while her stepsisters slept in the room that was once hers. The stepsisters called her Cinderella Ash Girl, Cinder Girl meaning it is cruelty. They did not know they were giving her a name the world would never forget. Every evening, she returned to the grave and whispered to the tree. And one evening, the tree sent something down through its branches to answer her. From that evening forward, whenever Cinderella made a wish at the tree, the white bird would answer her. Her mother's love had become magic. Then one bright morning, a royal messenger arrived in the village with extraordinary news. The king was holding a 3-day festival, and every young woman was invited. The stepsisters screamed with excitement and fought over every dress and jewel in the house, already certain the prince would choose one of them. Cinderella gathered her courage and asked if she too could go to the festival. The stepmother looked down at her and laughed a cold and mocking laugh. Then her stepmother poured the lentils into the cold fireplace ash and told Cinderella, "Sort every single one before evening, or you will never attend any festival." She went to the hazel tree and spoke from the deepest place in her heart. "Little tree, take your branches and send your gifts down to me." The tree shook its branches, and golden light poured down, and from within that light fell the most beautiful golden dress Cinderella had ever seen. And when she put it on, she felt her mother's love wrap around her like warm sunlight, and the mistreated Ash Girl vanished into the past forevermore. She walked through the great doors of the royal festival, and every single conversation stopped, and not one person in that hall recognized the Ash Girl. From across the crowded ballroom, the prince turned and saw her, and in that single moment, every other person in the room simply ceased to exist for him. The prince crossed the entire crowded ballroom, walked directly to her, bowed deeply, and politely asked if she would honor him by sharing a single, beautiful dance. They danced together all evening, and the prince danced with absolutely no one else, as if the rest of the world had simply ceased to exist for him. But as the evening deepened, Cinderella felt a sudden urgency rising in her heart, and before the prince could follow, she slipped away into the night. The stepsisters came home describing the mysterious golden girl to Cinderella in breathless detail, never once suspecting they were describing her to herself. On the second evening, she returned to the tree and spoke her wish again, and this time, what fell through the branches was silver as the full moon itself. And the second evening, she came in, silver as the moon, and the prince who had searched for her all day found her immediately and held her closer. Suddenly, she pulled away and ran before he could stop her, and by the time he reached the doors, she had vanished completely into the dark. The prince called his servants and gave a quiet order: "Spread pitch on every step of the staircase, so that tonight she cannot leave without leaving something behind." On the third and final evening, the tree blazed with more light than ever before, and what fell through its branches was brighter than the sun itself. On the third evening, she walked through the doors in gold brighter than sunlight, and every candle in the kingdom burned more brilliantly just to be near her. During the third evening, the prince held her hand a little tighter, and stayed a little closer as if he already knew she would try to leave again. She ran for the staircase, but her golden shoe caught in the pitch he had set, and as she pulled herself free, the shoe remained stuck fast behind her. He knelt on the marble step and lifted the golden shoe from the pitch with both hands as carefully and tenderly as if it were made of living light. At dawn, he stood on the palace balcony and declared to the entire kingdom, "I will find her, and the golden shoe will lead me to her." The stepsisters heard the declaration and nearly fell over each other with excitement, each completely and utterly certain that the golden shoe was made for her foot alone. The prince arrived at the merchant's house with the golden shoe, completely unaware that he had already found the right door and the right home. The shoe was too small. The stepmother pulled her daughter into the shadows and whispered, "Cut off your toe. When you are queen, you will never need to walk." Anastasia forced the shoe onto her cut foot and walked toward the prince with a smile that cost her everything. And for one terrible moment, the deception held. The two white doves appeared and sang, "Look down, down. The shoe is filled with blood. The true bride still waits at home." The prince returned, and the second stepsister came forward, and the stepmother pulled her into the shadows and whispered the very same cruel words again without a moment of remorse. The white doves returned and sang the same warning again, and this time, the prince looked down immediately and turned his horse around without a moment of hesitation. The prince stood before the stepmother and asked with quiet, certain authority, "Is there truly no other young woman in this house that I have not yet seen?" The stepmother said, "There is only a dirty kitchen girl. She is far too simple to be considered." The prince said quietly, "Every girl in this house must try." She came from the kitchen in her gray rags, with bare feet and ash on her hands, and the prince went completely still the moment he saw her. The prince knelt before her on the cold stone floor, and with both hands placed the golden shoe against her small bare foot, as gently as sunlight. The golden shoe slid onto her foot as if it had been made for her alone, because it had, and warm golden light flooded the entire room. The two white doves flew down and sang their ancient warning, and the stepmother's face went completely pale with horror as every cruel word she had ever spoken was exposed. The prince stood before the entire kingdom with Cinderella beside him, and announced her as his chosen bride, and the kingdom erupted in the most overwhelming joy it had ever known. She stood at the altar in her golden dress, with the white doves above her, and every cold morning, every gray rag, and every tear became worth everything. That evening Cinderella walked alone to her mother's grave, and knelt in her golden dress, and she did not weep because this time she had only gratitude. The white bird sang its final note, and spread its wings, and flew upward into the golden sky, and Cinderella watched it go knowing her mother was finally at peace. She never forgot the cold kitchen floor or the ash on her face, and because she remembered, she ruled with the kindest and most open heart the kingdom had ever known. The stepmother and stepsisters were not queens and not princesses. They were simply people who had chosen cruelty and now lived quietly with that choice. Because somewhere in every heart, there is a child who has felt overlooked and dismissed. And this story has always been told for that child and no one else. The real lesson of Cinderella has never been about golden shoes or magical birds. It has always been about choosing kindness every single day, even when it costs everything. Thank you for spending this time with us at Little Princess Fairy Tales, where every story is real, every tale is authentic, and every ending carries a truth worth keeping. If this story moved your heart, subscribe to Little Princess Fairy Tales and ring the bell so the next story finds you the moment it arrives. Coming next on Little Princess Fairy Tales, the real story of The Little Mermaid, the original ending that was written in 1837 and will break your heart beautifully.